Good evening and good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Napa Valley College Board of Trustees. This day, Thursday, July 9, 2020. May I have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Okay, Trustee Baker. Here. Trustee Dodd.
Here.
Trustee Goff. Here. Trustee Iverson.
Here.
Trustee Rios.
Here.
Student Trustee Leon. And Trustee Segura.
Here. Here. I made it.
Okay, so we have completed roll call. We are missing only Student Trustee Leon, and I'll make a note of it when he does show up, if he shows up.
And I relinquish my responsibilities to Board Chair Segura.
And I have a quick question about Trustee Leon. Wouldn't we normally have a new student trustee by now?
We would, but they delayed the elections he's part of the student government, and the elections have been delayed until the beginning of the next school year.
So he stays on.
Yep, he'll stay with us through August, I believe, August meeting, and then we'll see what happens September meeting. Not sure where we'll be at that point.
Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Trustee Baldini. Really appreciate it. And so 2.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Rios, would you please do us the honors?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United
States of America and to the
Republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty,
liberty and
justice
justice for all. And 2.3, adoption of the agenda. Are there any questions about the agenda?
Move for adoption as it's presented.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Baldini, second by Trustee Rios. All in favor? Oh, let me go through my list. I love going through my list. Trustee Baker.
Aye.
Trustee Dodd.
Aye.
Trustee Goff. Trustee Iverson.
Aye.
Trustee Rios.
Aye.
Student Trustee Leon is not here yet. Trustee Baldini.
Aye.
And that's an aye for myself as well. Thank you very much. Agenda is adopted. And we go to number 3, public comment in general. The public comment opportunity is governed by the State of California Brown Act. By definition, this is an opportunity to hear concerns, perspectives, and differing vantage points. The board is not able under the Brown Act to engage in any level of conversation or discussion, but we look forward to this opportunity to gather community input. At this time, the Board of Trustees will devote up to 15 minutes to review, comment to the Board of Trustees regarding any subject not appearing as an agenda item this meeting, but over which the board has jurisdiction. The public may request that raise an item related to the business of sorry about that, the future board agenda. No action or discussion will occur at this time on such items. Review of each comment shall last no longer than 5 minutes. And I suppose we have no public comment. We have no cards requesting public comment. So we go on to number 4, and that is 4.1. Dr. Tejada, can we hear your report, please? Is Dr. Tejada with us?
She's not present. Not present.
Okay. So 4.2. Administrative Confidential Senate Report, and Mr. Harris is also not with us, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And 4.3, Associated Students of Napa Valley College. How about Mr. Hernandez Sotelo? Not here as well? Couldn't be great. Not present. And 4.4, Classified Association Report. Valerie Mall, is she with us?
He is not present.
Her report is posted, though.
Thank you. And 4.5, Classified Senate Report. Mr. Shoemaker?
Not present.
4.6, Faculty Association Report. Is Christy with us?
Not present.
4.7, how about the President and Cabinet reports?
Is Ron on? I don't see.
Ron has not logged in yet.
Does anybody else have a report on the Cabinet?
I have a report. It's a report, but I was asked by Dr. Kraft to share this information during this period in that I've tendered to Dr. Kraft my resignation, my retirement from Napa Valley College as of January 11, 2021.
We're not approving it.
And Board Chair, Trustee Sakura, this is Charo Albaran on behalf of Napa Valley College and in my authority overseeing the Department of Human Resources. We have not accepted this decision for retirement. Of course, I say that in jest. When I received the news, I was completely brokenhearted. And as a colleague, I have to say, Oscar, we are desperately going to miss you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Will you at least come back for the mariachi festival?
Absolutely.
As an organizer. Well, I don't know what to say. Congratulations, but we don't accept that, huh, Charo?
Do not accept it at all.
Thank you. Consent calendar.
Chair, if I could, and I probably should have made this, I'm guessing right now when we approved the agenda, but I'd like to pull 511 off of consent for discussion, American Canyon Family Resource Center.
511?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have two questions.
Yes.
But let's move approval and then we'll talk about on
I'll move for
the human
approval on,
resources document and the financial.
are you moving for approval?
Yes, other than 511, 553, and
Iverson seconds, Trustee Baldini.
So do you want that pulled for discussion or?
just a quick question, but also I'll defer to my colleague, Trustee Dodd, for his. We're going to talk about that.
However we want to order. Yeah.
All right. My question is on, and I forgot to write it down, but I guess it was the financial documents. There was a auto repair. Is that consistent with college? Was it a college vehicle?
No, this is Bob Parker, and this was damage that was done to a personal vehicle of a faculty member, and it was done by workers who were working in connection with work that was being done by contractors from the college. It actually happened up at the Mount Veeder property. And so this payment was to the owner of the vehicle, the faculty member who owns the vehicle, to compensate for those repairs.
So I can park my car up there? Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you very much. That answers my question. And the other one was on the human resources document. Given the time, I noticed that we had a budgeted for athletic event staff position as well as trips and tour coordinator. And I was wondering, I know a lot of, it's almost impossible to travel out of the country. I was wondering what those were about.
Charles?
Yeah, you would think I'm caught up with technology. I'm trying to catch up. I'm still
Okay.
overwhelmed with Oscar's news.
I know.
We do oftentimes prepare in advance that we're able to provide services. The positions that we sometimes put on the board is in anticipation of utilizing those services should things change within the world and our present situations around COVID-19. And so this is just like we prepare for adjuncts, counselors, and sending folks to the board. And so they're available and ready to go when we're ready to use them.
Thank you very much. That concludes my questions.
Okay, thank you. So other than the changes mentioned above, can I have a motion?
We do have a motion, Baldini and Iverson, and a second from Iverson. We need to take the vote.
Okay, Jennifer Baker, Trustee Baker,
Aye.
Trustee Dodd,
Aye.
Trustee Goff,
Here we go. Aye.
Trustee Iverson,
Aye.
Trustee Rios.
Aye.
Is Student Trustee Leon still absent, not here?
Not present.
Okay. Trustee Baldini,
Aye.
and that's an aye for me as well. I would like to take a minute to welcome to our meetings Dr. Sarah Parker.
Can we discuss, Chair? I'm happy to do the intro, but I wanted to speak about 511.
Oh, please go ahead.
And I don't know if anybody could provide any background in terms of this relationship, but I'm, particularly right now with the current economic environment that we're in right now, I'm really trying to stay focused on career services, and the report or the agreement and the scope of work made a very good case for the need for career services right now and the focus. And then there was some discussion too how on some college programs we're actually cutting those career services. So it's no question about the need to invest in it, but what I thought was missing from the scope of work, and I'd actually like to see to see it be revised, perhaps come back to us next month, I think, if that's possible, is really building in some metrics into it. What actually kind of struck me too is in looking at what's coming up on our agenda for Mentis. Mentis put together some really interesting, very straightforward in terms of metrics, in terms of how it was meeting their goals for their, really concise scope of work with the college and the services they provide. They talked about in the scope of work the 4 different strategies: career advising, employee engagement, career pathways, program development, and so on and so forth. But there wasn't any discussion in terms of what happened in 2019, in terms of number of job fairs, number of students touched, number of students connected with jobs. And I feel a little bit, especially, for even perhaps future ones that come our way, I'd like to, in the future, tie in some metrics so we can understand, whether or not the program is meeting our goals, is it's meeting its own goals and mission. Really some accountability measures. I mean, just put it in perspective, we have 5 job fairs that, let's just say, is hosted. But if we only have 5 people showing up and only one of them gets a job, why are we still investing in 5 job fairs? And I've been struck too. I mean, I recall it was about a year ago too. I think the Upper Valley campus hosted a job fair, and that was actually really the case. I think only 5 students showed up. You had 20 employers. So if time is on our side here, which I think since it's still in the summer, we should have still some time to bring something back, or at least the opportunity that for in 2020 that they will bring in some metrics to find some accountability in their scope of work. That's what would be my preference.
Okay, yes, what we do is that, and I see that Senior Dean Howard Wilson is present, as well as Dr. Sherry Tennyson. And I think that your recommendation or your request is very valid. So I believe that it would be no problem for us to gather the metric information that we have, because we have it. It's just a matter of collating it for you. Howard, you want to add anything to that?
Absolutely, thank you. We also provided as an addendum Career Center accomplishments. And again, we can clarify that we have all metrics on everything that we do. This is not a new partnership. So we do have additional data that we can present, but we did include our accomplishments along with the board agenda item.
Yeah, and thank you. I thought that it was nice to see in terms of just the number of activities going with, but yeah, I think tying it into a little more to the actual results to that, and if it's possible, to build in some, you're talking about equity and the importance of that. If we could, be mindful of how, this is, talking about students of color and how, they're impacted relative to others. That's something I would find interesting as well. I am also wary of making this a really too burdensome of an administrative task. So I want you to know that I'm mindful of that. So yeah, that was just my comment. But I did absolutely see the addendum.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Hanson, do you want to add anything? No, I guess not.
Oh, sure. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the question. I would like to say, yes, there is an addendum on our data. We have several ways that we track data for our program. One is, of course, one of our internal systems that we were using up to March with SARS, as well as now we're on Cranium Cafe and, of course, meeting students through Zoom. The data that you're asking for, yes, we did address it in our Career Center accomplishments. And here's some realities. Yes, we had a limited showing up in Upper Valley campus when we did a hiring event. I think that's the type of community that even if 5 students show and 4 get a job, it's worth the effort. If 6 students show, they get to do one thing that most importantly helps the students and our campus. We're bringing the community to the campus. The employers want to meet our students. They want to embrace them. They want to help them in their career paths. Most importantly, when I'm working with the students, I'm encouraging them to get out of the shell of being a student, but also looking and becoming more active in their career search. So it's a lot of work to put these events together, but it's also work that I feel is critical. Yes, there are a lot of places that are talking about limiting career services, but here's the reality. Our students are coming in and they need to just build their skills up. It's worth putting this time in to sit down and do one-on-ones with them, to do long-term meetings with them. It's important that our students have that type of access to meet with employers who eventually may become their mentors, if not their actual employer. So yes, I think we can go forward. If you want to, we could solidify with Dean Willis and VP DeHaro, we could solidify some of the metrics, but it's a long-term process of working with the students and hand-holding them through the process. Not every student walks in the door clearly identifying their career path, their major, and a lot of that has to do with working with them, showing them what's available to them, and teaching them that they have the skill sets in terms of being a critical thinker, learning their communication skills to work with employers, all that they have the opportunity to go out and start looking for jobs. And by bringing the employers to the campus, it's a win-win. They get to meet our students, they get to see what we're all about, and for the students, it's an opportunity to learn that they have the actual skills, to practice some of those skills. So in terms of metrics, again, I'm open to how you want to work that.
Trustee Dodd, we can provide you the information. So if the preference of the board is to postpone this item for the August meeting, that's fine. And we'll provide you those metrics that we have available into something that's easily readable.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you, Dr. Tennyson. And let me be clear, I want to be totally supportive. So it's not about the idea about questioning, but would love to see even just building in goals. And at the end of the year, are we meeting those goals?
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not. Can I ask? This is maybe to Trustee Dodd, but I'm not quite understanding whether you're requesting that this be put off and reconsidered once there are goals. I mean, it sounds like we have all the metrics and all the information on the what is accomplished and how many students get jobs and all of that. Sounds like we have all that information. Are you trying to get some specifics into the contract that then they would be held to? I'm opposed to that. I think we should approve it as is, and we've got all the information we need. If in the future, it's not productive, then I think we reconsider, but sounds like we've got all the information about how this program is working.
Well, I think the point noted, and I understand what you mean. And again, I'm not trying to cast any real administrative hurdles with this by any means. What I'm looking for is really actually the metrics and understanding goals. In terms of, yes, there are some numbers in that addendum, and I've reviewed them all. There's numbers about employers, but in terms of ultimately how many students are we placing in those jobs from a particular job fair or a particular event, and how many people, just to measure ourselves up at the end of the year, just to understand. I think, and I'm sorry for just keep on using this example, but for job fairs, let's just say, if it really is, it takes a significant amount of time, let's say 80 hours or 40 hours to put a job fair, but only one student is getting a job. Is that the most effective use of resources? Again, that's just one example. So to your point, or maybe question for clarification, how do we bring this back or amending it or getting staff support is what Oscar would say to add something in there for the scope of work that so we can see it perhaps, and I'd be open to that idea, but adding some of those more kind of straightforward goals and metrics for how we're supporting students for each respective item, whether or not it's a job fair or who comes in the door looking for exact work, or they're just looking for counseling services, having those really concrete numbers at the end of the day. I'm not sure if that's clarifying enough, Trustee Rios.
It just, to me, it seems like there are a number of factors that we don't have control over, and neither do the people running the job fair or control over, what the employers end up doing or whether they find what they're looking for. So I'm concerned that we put some numbers in there and maybe those numbers aren't met. And then the next step would say, well, okay, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to cancel it. When I agree that the students need this, it's beyond just the getting the job. It's some life skills and other things that they're learning. And you never know who will show up. I mean, the students themselves have other agendas, but it's providing that opportunity, in my view.
I see what you're both saying. And by no means am I not supporting the program. And again, this goes back to some of my comments on item 9.1, the Mentis agreement, but it's just, I think it might be better to bring it back. And I just think right now with funding and the current climate, it's hard for me to even, I look at the cost of the program, and then I look at even Mentis where we're cutting a day, and I think that that's due to a grant funding. And I don't want to get all off the subject, but I just think that we maybe want to look at things a little tighter and have some of this information.
Well, why doesn't
my 2 cents in? If I can put my 2 cents in, this relationship has been going on for 3 years, quite successfully, and I understand the desire to have the metrics and desire to really watch how we're spending our money. However, in the current environment, I think this is a really crucial need for our students. And to say, well, we need more numbers and we want to wait, let's put it off a month, I think that will do more harm than good. I would love to see them come back with metrics next month, but I would also like to keep this program going because I think our students really need it. I think it's valuable, and to interrupt it like this and slow any momentum and put it into question whether or not we're going to give our students this opportunity to meet employers for practice interviewing and practice resume and practice all that. I would hate to see us compromise that.
Yeah, this is Jennifer, and I agree with that. I think also I would say it might be interesting not to tie it to the contract, but if we were to come back next month or some other time to explore some different types of metrics, maybe looking more at outcomes versus output, and like, so rather than just how many students came to something, doing some sort of survey about what they felt they got out of it. And, how did that, what skill set did they, when they came to this event and then they left, did they feel like it was worth their time? And so something like that might be worthwhile. I wouldn't necessarily tie it specifically to the contract, though. I would say that's something that we would just want to have as an ongoing evaluation piece.
If I could maybe just sum up, and this will be my last comment I'll make, I promise. I would not want to delay the contract if it was going to be any sense of a delay to student services, to be totally clear. I don't want it to be seeming that I'm not supportive of this program. Actually, I might be open to increasing the dollar amount. I think I would, maybe just to perhaps to build some consensus, is that we could get staff support. And Oscar, I think you just alluded to the idea to build it in for this round into 2020. I think what Trustee Baker was kind of the output, and building some goals for output for each particular event. And at the end of the year, we can see, and the Career Center can see if we're meeting those goals. Ultimately, yes, a lot of it's out of our control, but I think at the end of the day, we'll be able to see what's successful and what's not. And if we're not meeting our goals in a certain area, then perhaps we rethink our goals and the meaningfulness of the program. Because I think, as Trustee Rios was saying, just because not everybody gets a job doesn't mean that the job fair was unsuccessful. And there's a lot of value in speaking face to face with employers and having that discussion and showing yourself as a professional. So, I defer actually to Oscar, however you want to handle in light of, I think the board's concerns about having a delay.
This is an action item, right?
Yes, it is.
So I'm gonna put a motion on to approve. I move to approve this item. And we've had all the discussion. I guess maybe we can have a second if there is one, or
Second.
And then a vote. And if it doesn't pass, then we can talk about how it maybe can come back.
If there's a motion on the table, then I'd like to have a discussion about with staff of getting some support and building some consensus about having staff for this scope of work, putting in there. We can still approve it, but giving staff direction that we'd like to see for this year as part of that work to keep some numbers on outputs and goals. That's all I'd like to see.
Excuse me, pause. Gavel down.
And I'm down.
So I hear a motion by trustee Rios to approve this particular item. I hear a second from trustee Dodd with whatever he just mentioned, with goals and
Well, we already had a second before the last comments by trustee Dodd.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Beth, you second. And Jennifer second as well. So the trustee Dodd wants to have more discussion. And so we're putting it on a vote. Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
I asked
The first and the second. Well, we have a first from trustee Rios, a second from trustee Goff. Correct?
Correct.
And trustee Dodd just put more discussion on this particular motion, or unless either Beth wants to refine her second with what trustee Dodd mentioned.
There's a motion and there's a second. So.
Trustee Baker, how do you
Call
vote?
the question.
Aye.
Do we have some discussion?
More?
Yeah.
We've had.
Well, I'd ask if trustee Rios, would like for you to consider if you would amend your motion to reflect, to give staff direction to add some scope of work, not to bring it back, but to defer to their discretion and based on our discussion here, to change the scope of work, to add some outputs that they think that they would be meaningful and we would find meaningful. I'll leave it to staff's discretion on that point.
Yes, I will amend to, as you've stated, it'll be staff's discretion. The contract does not have to come back, but the staff can look at what metrics might be useful to actually have in the future for us to look at. Then I will amend my motion. So do at this point.
And if trustee Goff, I could steal your second.
Absolutely. But I'll hold you to owing me one.
So motion by trustee Rio, second by trustee Dodd. Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd.
Aye, and thank you for indulging me.
You never mind. Trustee Goff.
Aye.
Trustee Iverson.
Aye.
Trustee Rios.
Aye.
Student trustee Pablo Leon is still absent.
Not present.
Trustee Baldini.
Aye.
And that's an aye for me as well. So, Dr. Timmerson.
Yes.
I'm still here, Rosa.
No, I know you're there, but
Let me just add that the request that's been made is very reasonable, and we will make certain that for this current year, we will provide a format, a series of metrics that could assist us with assessing and making this project more accountable, if you will, without any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar.
yeah, thank you for all you do for American Canyon and the students south of the valley. Thank you very much. So we're on 9.2, the Mentis memo.
Move approval.
Wait, don't we need to go back? Did we miss some stuff?
No, that was on the consent agenda.
6.1, don't.
Let me see.
6.1?
Yes, you are correct. We pulled that and it fell under student affairs. We should go back to 6.1. Thank you.
I was ready for, well, this one's going to bring discussion as well. SIGs, Administrative Services, Information and Discussion and Action Items. And 6.1 is Campus Student Housing. Mr. Siri, you had some information for us?
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for having us here tonight. We were here to present a few quick updates. I'm not sure who's controlling the screen, but we had just a quick update on the CEQA process schedule, and we had just a quick slide, if that would be possible.
Stephen, are you asking to share your screen?
I can certainly see if I can pull it up if that was easier. Sorry, I thought we had it queued up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I do not have that queued up. Oh.
No problem. Let me pull it quickly.
Tell me when you're ready. If you want, we can move to selection of bond underwriter while you hunt for that. I'm sorry, we got our wires crossed.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, let's start with that, and I'll have this pulled up shortly.
Okay. And I believe that is Bob Parker.
I believe that is, yes. So the Martin Group did a request for proposals for interest from bond underwriters to support this project. They received 2 proposals. We put together a group representing representatives of the college, representatives of the Martin Group, and representatives of Scion, our advisors, to review the proposals and interview the 2 firms. And we came to the conclusion, a unanimous conclusion, that the best fit for our project would be to go with Citibank. So we have selected Citibank as the bond underwriter for the project. They have very strong credentials. They're #1 in tax-exempt transactions throughout the industry. They're #1 in the market for this particular type of bond, at least this particular grade of bond. They've got some interesting proposals on how to structure the bond and how to save some financing dollars in the way that the bond would be structured. And perhaps most importantly, they have recent experience with a project that is very similar to ours at Nevada State College, approximately the same size, college that's new to campus housing. And so for all of those reasons, we all felt very strongly that Citibank was the best fit. They were the ones who were most interested in working with us, and they brought the most to the table.
Thank you. Are we ready, Mr. Siri, or should we go on to the pedestrian path?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me.
Have you got it? I've got it too. I've pulled it up now.
Okay. Well, it just said I'm disabled, so why don't you go ahead, Catherine?
Okay. Here we go. Let me see. Sharing. Hold on a second. Screen. There we go.
Great, thank you. So we're here to just give a quick update on the CEQA timeline and project approval. Just as a quick summary, myself and Karina White on our team have been working with a consultant, GHD, a CEQA consultant, through this process over the last several months, and staff. And this is part of the project approvals that was presented in the pre-development schedule back in January. And Just as a kind of quick snapshot, we will be, we're finishing several technical studies that are required for our CEQA approval, and we'll be going to a 30-day public review period. At the end of July, it may slip by a few weeks, but we're tracking towards that date. And then from there, through August, there'll be that 30-day review period to see if we receive any comments. There's been numerous amounts of public outreach that's been coordinated throughout the last several months with staff, our team, and our consultants. And then we'll be coming back to the board for a notice of determination approval in September. And just as a quick overview, we're targeting for the implementation schedule to commence construction in the summer of 2021 for a fall 2023 completion date. And then the next topic that we wanted to discuss and circle back with the trustees was based on a comment for further exploration of the potential pedestrian connection to the north of the project. We've spent some time with our civil engineer and CEQA consultants and design team, and reviewed two different pedestrian connection options. One would be a western connection over the riparian area, which would require a path from the housing site across the pedestrian bridge to Imola. And then we looked at an eastern route that would abut the highway and would also require a pedestrian bridge. Based on just some conceptual numbers that we received from the civil engineer, based on a comparable scope of work. And this would be all in hard costs and design and permitting costs. There are other unknowns, and again, these are conceptual numbers. But what was presented to us was approximately $1.5 million for a western connection, and approximately $1.35 million for an eastern connection. And the slight difference there is just based on the proximity to cross. It was slightly shorter on the eastern side. There could be a potential for a slightly cheaper option on the eastern side, but it would have to be through a pier connection that would attach to the highway, so to speak there. It would have to be very carefully coordinated, and we have some doubts on the feasibility just with the bike lane maintaining proper pedestrian protection and the highway. So those were the two costs that we received. From a coordination standpoint, as we went through this process, it was very apparent that there needs to be a connection not only across from the housing project, but then across to Imola. And we spent some time in discussing this with the Imola Corridor Project. For those who are familiar, it's a multi-government agency planning effort. And there needs to be a connection to get people across the street, not just across the riparian area. It's our understanding that although the planning is in process, there's currently no funding. So there would be additional costs on top of the pedestrian bridge to further that pedestrian connection. We reviewed this also from a timing perspective. The trustees we last heard wanted us to review the incorporation of this within the housing project. Based on review and our current schedule, the inclusion of this into the CEQA studies posed an additional risk to not only our CEQA approval date, but as we look at student housing, it's so important that we start construction on a certain date and have all of our pre-development work completed. If we miss targets, it puts us at risk of delaying an entire school year. And when we looked at that from a schedule perspective with our consultant team, it put that at risk. So based on the above, I guess from a cost coordination standpoint and timing standpoint from CEQA, it was our recommendation to staff that this should be pursued as a separate project separate from the housing project at this time. There are a few things that we have done with the project design, and as we've kind of thought through in lieu of these aspects. One is that the current project design would be supportive in its current state of any future connection. So if that were pursued at a later date, it would make that connection it would be easier. The other is we've been spending a lot of time thinking about not only pedestrian connection to campus and the surrounding areas, but other modes of transportation. Something that the project is currently focused on is additional bike parking and looking at bike sharing programs, which would promote that form of transportation as well. The bike path, as currently from the housing project to the retail center, is approximately 4 minutes long. So we've looked at that as another element that we can add to create a connection at this time.
Thank you very much for that. That's very good info. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Siri?
This is Jennifer. I have a question about if we were to pursue this later down the road as a separate project. Is it still possible to roll the cost of that into the overall cost of the project, or would we need to do that completely separately and build a toll bridge?
So the cost would have to be separate unless if this was pursued separately and all that could be completed prior to the closing of the bond financing.
Okay. I remember we had previous discussions that the board members had about the possibility of pursuing private funding. I don't know if any of the board members are still interested in exploring that idea, being that it would have to be kind of a separate project.
I think it's something we should keep in mind, and especially if the Imola corridor project at the moment is not moving forward, I think we'd have to know what's happening there too. So given the cost and all those other factors, it sounds like this would have to be separate and sometime in the future. But I think that we should kind of stay on top of what's going on with the Imola corridor. And so that, because there's going to have to be some coordination with that whenever that takes off. And so we don't lose an opportunity if one comes up.
Okay, great. Just so that we're clear on that and that, we're understanding on the fact that it's going to have to be a whole new project.
Board Chair Segura, I just had one question.
Trustee Iverson, please.
Stephen, are there pieces that we could do? Just, I don't know if it's foundation. Obviously, I'm not a builder by any means, but are there pieces that we could do that could be done that wouldn't take the scope of the project or, make it too costly, but that could mitigate some of the challenges down the road, or just, maybe it's foundation or just starting the process so that as we're building right now, moving dirt and stuff, is there?
Are you speaking about from a construction perspective?
Yeah, both. It just like while we're doing some of this, is there some stuff that we could do for this pedestrian bypass? Is there something that we could get going that would help down the road?
The current design, just based on site grading and improvements that we'll be doing, will be a benefit to that future connection based on the earthwork. In terms of any additional, such as like a pathway or some sort, those costs would be more minimal, and from a permitting and ADA coordination standpoint, it's important that you have the grades of the bridge before you put in, grades of any ramping, so to speak. But I do believe that the current design and grading improvements there will ultimately be a benefit in the future for a connection.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
if I could, Stephen, thanks so much for going through that exercise of doing that. I think all of the board members appreciate those communications with MBTA and finding out the staff and costing it out, and then also not just doing that, but considering an alternative as well. You mentioned you thought about an Eastern connection, so very much appreciate those efforts. In terms of kind of building in on, and I agree, just to be clear, I think that what the recommendations that you're making to staff make sense to me. Just to give the board a little bit idea, where are most of those costs hidden in that 1.5 or 1.3 estimate?
The vast majority of that is the construction of the bridge.
And maybe the construction challenges, I guess, if you could speak to that. Obviously,
sure. Yeah. So any connection there is, from a permitting standpoint, will be very complicated. There are. Here is a list of the agencies that will need to be incorporated in addition. So this would be in addition to anybody involved in the IMOLA corridor project. So you'd have the city, Caltrans, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Regional Water Quality Board, and then the U.S. Army Corps and Engineering. So those 5 agencies, in addition to going through the CEQA process, you'll have a biologist, cultural resources, air quality. There'll be a number of others. So there is a lot of complication just in doing work in an environmentally sensitive area. So with that, most of the costs are suspending the bridge over a longer, duration. And so the majority of those costs are the hard costs. It's not the soft costs and permitting, although there is time associated with those.
Sure. So is that's really it? Is it the slope associated, just additional materials and whatnot to make sure the slope is compliant with ADA? Regs?
Yeah, that's one of many. I would recommend that if you pursued either in the future, although the western route poses to be the shortest distance and maybe the most logical connection.
Yeah,
I would recommend pursuing the eastern route. And specifically, if there is a way that you could do a pier option, which would essentially, you would shore up to the side, partially to the side of the highway, so you wouldn't have to be, fully extended as a bridge. But again, there's still, significant cost associated with that, but it has the potential, if you can get through the permitting and design, to be cheaper than a bridge.
and sorry, and then does that cost? This is my last question. Does that cost include the sidewalk work and improvements? I guess that would be needed. You talked about connecting it actually to the shopping center. So for instance, building in the stormwater improvements and a sidewalk over to the shopping center as well. That 1.5 or 1.3?
No, so that was just to the southern side of Imola, so it didn't get you across the street.
From an east to west, I guess is what I was saying, to connect, I guess, to that crosswalk.
So this was
on
just
Gasser Drive, I guess.
Yeah, we have a conceptual plan that we could that was put together that might be easier that we can share. But this would just be from the north side of the housing project to the south side of Imola on the eastern side or the western side. It would not include, that number did not include a sidewalk extension through Imola or to the crosswalk, because that's currently in the scope of the IMOLA corridor project.
Can I just confirm what you just said? So the project that you were looking at, the 1.5 or the 1.35, that did or did not include a bridge over Imola?
No, a bridge over the riparian area, not IMOLA.
Okay. So that would only basically get you to Imola, and then you would still have to use a crosswalk to get across Imola.
Correct. Yeah, it would be most cost effective to just adapt or utilize a crosswalk over IMOLA versus a bridge.
Mm-hmm. I have one question. Thank you very much, Stephen. This is Michael Baldini, for what you've done. You said that you would make something available to us. Is any sorts of estimates or your initial studies that might, as far as to the college?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a package that we have, and that should definitely be stored for any future considerations.
Great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any more questions? Any more discussion? Thank you very much. That information was wonderful. And so we have a lot to think about. Bicycles. Let's do bicycles on the Vine Trail. No, anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before we go on to 6.2, I would like to acknowledge, if I may, the presence of Dr. Sarah Parker. This is her first official meeting. I know that we have welcomed her before, but welcome to the official board meetings. I was going to say jungle, but it's no jungle.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Day 5 today.
That's right.
And you know, we're Zooming, so we think we can get away with some things, but this is us. And I think that we need to, during these times, we need to laugh a little. So thank you and welcome. So now we go on to 6.2, the purchase of bottling line equipment for the Viticulture and Winery Technology Program.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Baldini, second by Trustee Rios. Is there any discussion? Questions?
Just a comment, having worked on the previous bottling line and the last 2 months on a real bottling line, I think our college would do very well to have the real thing for its training of future members of the wine industry. And I see Dr. Paul in the audience. I'd appreciate any comments from him.
Paul G., do you have anything to say?
Well, good evening, members of the board. Thank you for considering our proposal. I've got to tell you, I'm really, really excited for this. And as part of the RFP, we specifically asked that companies give us a state-of-the-art bottling line that we're going to be able to use for well more than a decade to come. And this company really nailed it. And I really appreciate that, because I really believe that they are believing in the best in our students and the potential for our industry. And so I really appreciated that. And it was a very elegant proposal, and it had a lot of options in there that we may or may not include depending on our budget, but they at least gave us the option, and they let us know that the options were available. This is a slightly different type of bottling line. This is a mechanized system as opposed to a pneumatic system. So we already have a pneumatic system, which we heard Michael refer to, and this is probably more appropriate for a garagista style winery than a full commercial winery. It's just too slow, it's manual, it's hands-on and laborious. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to force the students to learn that too. But the reality is you need to fill 3 bottles of wine on that line before you are 100% proficient at running that line. And we're not trying to teach our students to fill bottles. We're trying to teach our students to run this industry and run it to its highest potential. And so when they dig in deeper beyond just cleaning a bottling line and throwing some wine in the bottle, that really, I really believe that's us doing what we're supposed to be doing in career tech education. So thank you for the consideration. Thank you for the support.
How many bottles per minute does it do?
This particular line does thousands of bottles an hour.
An hour, okay. Does it package the thing also, or?
So it's manually loaded, and then we manually unload, and then we've got the student that came in late gets to run around all the pallets with plastics to actually wrap them up so they don't fall off.
I like that plan. I like it very much.
I have a quick question about that. You said that there were a number of options that you could think about and that you weren't certain if that was in the budget. Are those things that you could add later, or is it buy it now or never?
A lot of this is now or never, but I'm actually interested in removing some of the options, because when we remove the options, when we remove the Band-Aids, it forces the students to learn at a deeper, more intense level. So if we strip off some of those options, they have to understand and know the line a lot better to set it manually than to have a computer set it for you, for example. So we're going to check off some of those, and they're going to do the hand cranks and manual fills, and I'm really excited about the potential. And what I'd also like to say,
stick. It's good.
I'm sorry, pardon me. I spoke over you. I apologize.
I know. I spoke over you actually. So.
And I would also add that we're trying to position ourselves to eventually write for a bachelor's degree in wine production, and this line relates directly to that and setting us up for that.
That's awesome. I like how you think, Paul.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So, Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Iverson?
Aye. Thank you, Paul.
Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student Trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And I'm excited about this. That's an aye for me as well. Thank you very much. So we are on 6.5, 5-year capital outlay construction plan and district order of priority. It's an information item. Mr. Parker, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Parker?
Move approval. It does say it's an action item.
Oh, sorry.
A second.
Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Iverson?
Aye.
Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Trustee Student Pablo Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's an aye for me as well. Thank you. We are on number 7 of the agenda, academic affairs, information, discussion, action. 7.1, renewal of college and career access pathways agreement. That's an action item.
Move approval.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, moved by Trustee Baldini, second by Trustee Goff, is that right? Or was it Trustee Dodd?
It was Trustee Iverson.
Okay, Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Iverson?
Aye.
Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student Trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's an aye for myself as well. Thank you. 7.2, Napa Valley Support Services Agreement. Action item. May I entertain a motion, please?
Move approval. Baldini.
Second.
A move by trustee Baldini, second by trustee Goff. Questions, discussion? Trustee Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Iverson?
Aye.
Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's an aye for myself. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. 7.3, agreement with product services and industries. Again, that is an action item. Can I entertain a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by trustee Baldini, second by trustee Rios. Trustee Baker?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Trustee Iverson?
Aye.
Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's also an aye for me. We move on to number 8 on the agenda, and that's the human resources information, discussion, action items. 9.1, Mentes Memorandum of Understanding. Trustee Iverson is recusing himself on this vote because he's on the board.
I did have a couple comments too, and a couple questions too.
Can I have a motion, and then we'll go on to discussion?
Move approval.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
So it's hard for me right now. I mean, obviously mental health is a huge issue right now, especially in today's climate with everything that's going on with the protests, COVID-19, just overall. And I think that mental health is finally coming out of the shadows in our society. So it is hard for me to see us be going from 3 days to 2 days. And that goes to one of my questions. I believe that it's because of grant funding, why we are losing the 1 day. So I had a question more around, so the students that the MOU with Mentes is serving are for the 5 programs. I'm just curious where the general population of students go outside of the numbers that we see in the report. I mean, our total student population, are they even having the benefits of this service yet? And are we looking at telehealth and some of these other ways during COVID and the lack of face-to-face classes and sessions right now?
Let me see if I can, if I can answer each of your questions. First of all, is that you recall that last year we had 3 days. One of the days that was added was funded specifically by funding from statewide UMOJA programs that we were able to use those funds for 1 extra day. That funding is not yet certain, as is the uncertainty for other funding and budgets. Perhaps down the road in the near future, perhaps after we see what the final budget for the district looks like, there may be a possibility of doing something or finding some other sources to regain or to add that third date or the third day. The Mentes therapist actually has seen other students, not just those that are associated with those programs that are named. When we entered into this contract some 3 years ago or so, it was entered into for the reason of assisting those students who may not have the access to mental health services, or perhaps it was something that that culturally mental health services was not something that they avail themselves to. And so the idea was to have someone who is bilingual to assist with bringing out those students and encouraging them to see a therapist for their needs, like anxiety needs or personal needs and the like. But Paola has been seeing other students other than those from those programs. In addition to that, we have a therapist in the Student Health Center, Magdalena Orr, who has a full schedule of appointments, currently virtually as well. And also we have a therapist who's been assigned specifically to assist our veterans. The veterans therapist is funded through another source, not related to the college. Magdalena Orr is funded through the college, through the district. And so you're right. These times are very difficult for many students and for the population in general. And we're trying to combine our resources as much as we can to make certain that we can afford these services to those who need it. But again, if we were to add a third day, we need to find or look for the sources, another $17,000 to make it happen. But that's something that we can undertake and maybe do some research on. And perhaps by the time the final budget is presented in September, there may be something there. But for now, we do know that we have 2 days.
Oscar, I truly appreciate your support for this program, and my fellow trustees, I think everyone can understand the need for mental health services, and Mentis is the oldest nonprofit in Napa and one of the larger, especially in bilingual services, mental health providers. So thank you for answering the questions.
I have a question, Mr. Jaharo. Is this, if we look at last year with that 17, say 52,000, a little over $1,000 per student seen, is that consistent with the other programs, say, that you mentioned offered to the veterans as well as in-house?
Yes, I would say so.
Thank you.
Any more questions, any more discussion? Thank you. Trustee Baker?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff?
Aye.
Oh, Trustee Iverson cannot vote. Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student Trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's an aye for me as well. Thank you very much for all the information and discussion. And your questions shall be addressed in September, Kyle. 10, general information, discussion, action items. 10.1, BACC Strong Workforce Program Regional Fund Agreement between Cabrillo Community College District and Napa Valley Community College District, round 4. Action. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Monahan? May I entertain a motion then?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you very much. Yes?
Oh no, I just was Iverson seconds.
Okay, moved by Trustee Rios, second by Trustee Iverson. Trustee Baker?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Goff? Trustee Iverson? Trustee Rios?
Aye.
Student Trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Baldini?
Aye.
And that's an aye for me as well. Thank you. And so we're at, goodness, we're at 11 board reports. Standing committee reports. Doss.
Yes, we did meet on the 23rd, and a relatively short meeting, not a lot to report. Some of the same issues that had been reported in the previous meeting, just having to do with COVID and the impact on contracts with vendors and like the cafe, the bookstore, things that we get, money that comes in from events and whatnot that have been forestalled. So just kind of watching that, we did approve the 2021 budget and tax returns, audit report, quarterly financials, and that was pretty much it. Just kind of trying some different things, looking at like vending machine options instead of the cafe. So just kind of in a holding pattern right now.
Thank you. VWT.
No meeting.
Thank you. Legislative Affairs, Trustee Goff.
Yes, so many of you might have heard that COVID has hit our state legislature once again. So they are out of session now. They have closed down. There's not a lot to report. We have not met. Thank you, Holly Dawson, once again for keeping her finger on the pulse of things. I have talked to her. We're hoping to hold a meeting maybe before our next board meeting. There will be 12 propositions on the November ballot. There are a couple of them that the board might want to endorse. We're going to talk a little bit about that in our committee once we have a meeting. And again, hopefully before next board meeting. So we should have some information by then.
Thank you. Audit and Finance, Trustee Baker.
No, we have not met.
Real Property, Trustee Rios.
We have not met.
Thank you. So we had talked about meeting at Mount Vader at some point. And we had talked about July 18th. I don't know if that's still on the books or not, or and this falls on the Real Property Committee, so that's why I'm bringing it up right now.
No, I don't remember that date. And so I'm not, I don't recall what date. And then I thought we had taken it off the schedule for some reason. And I have not talked to Ron about that. So,
we had, I'm sorry, I can weigh in real quickly here. We were thinking about a full board meeting, and we shifted to a subcommittee meeting because it just felt too onerous to try to get everybody up there. And so we have not yet scheduled that subcommittee meeting for a tour up there. And that's kind of where we stand right now, but that could happen. Raphael and I can talk about the day and then coordinate.
Yeah, we'll need to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jump in. Being new, fairly new to the board, I would love to get a glimpse of that property because I know nothing about it. So while not on the committee, if there's a time maybe in the next 12 months that we could maybe, when things cool down, either plan a board meeting or a field trip up there, that would be really appreciated.
Beth, it's Ron again. We had discussed that. So if the subcommittee went up, they could do that kind of subcommittee, but I could certainly go up with 3 other board members, myself. So we could schedule a field trip if that really works. And soon, over the summer sometime, before the rains hit, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. We're on 11.2, trustee and board and my reports. Oh. Do we have, I'll go down the line. Jennifer,
are we talking about 11.3?
We're talking about, well, I have 11.2. Oh, that changed. because of that, yes.
Okay.
It's not on my agenda. Okay. Anyway, yes. 11.3, future agenda items.
No, I believe you're at 11.2, trustee and board chair reports.
Yes, we did standing committee, and now we're going to do the regular trustee reports.
Trustee Baker, do you have anything to report?
Not really. Attended a couple of web meeting type things just on some of the anti-racism and other work that's being done around. And then also I did meet with Trustee Iverson, and I met with Chief Wade to talk about what's going on at the college. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Trustee Dodd?
Nothing to report. Sorry, I got confused on the last one. I thought we normally did the reports last. Excuse me.
Thank you.
You're good. You're perfect, Chair.
Trustee Goff?
I feel like I've been really busy. I've actually attended several online events, which have been really informative. With Trustee Rios, we also met with Chief Wade, and she always impresses me with her professionalism and her compassion for her job. And I just feel really grateful to have her as in charge of our police force. I also went to the library meet and greet and met with the library staff, and that was wonderful. Their online services are great. I plan on using them, so that was really wonderful. I went to the management training for NVC's return, as well as the Caring Campus webinar. Both of those were really interesting. The last 2 days, however, have been more interesting than anything else. Yesterday, I was in an informational meeting on Prop 15. If you don't know what Prop 15 is, that is the Schools and Communities First proposition. I really want to encourage each of you to educate yourself on this. This could have a huge impact, not only on the college, but the state of California as we pull ourselves out of the economic crisis we're in. And then today I participated in the NCOE budget meeting that was hosted by Capital Advisors Group. That was quite an eye-opener as well. I don't know if it was because I didn't understand it or not, but I kind of walked away feeling better about things in education with regards to the budget than I have. So I'm hoping that I walked away with the right impression. Not great, but not horrible. So I feel like all of us, we've been kind of touching all these things that are going on, all these fires that are going on. And I think it's going to be quite a fall as we enter into the new school year. So I just hope we're all ready for it, because I think it's going to be a doozy. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Iverson?
Just nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. Trustee Rios?
I also attended some of those meetings by Zoom. They're all kind of running together. But the other thing I want to echo, Trustee Goff's comment about Chief Wade during that meeting. We talked about, the campus police and how they handle things. And I felt very confident that our police department, with her leadership, is really attuned to these issues that are going on, and knows how to address them, and is very sensitive to all the issues surrounding everything that's going on, and has a plan on, for the college police department. So I was very happy to hear from her and everything she had to say.
Thank you. Student Trustee Leon?
No reports.
But I want to know, well, elections should take place is it next month or September?
So the date has been discussed with an elections committee. I haven't been able to participate in that, but the election dates were set for August, I believe.
Okay.
with the new, I guess, the incoming NVC board would take office beginning October 1st, is what I recall. So there would be a gap period in between two NVC boards, which other representatives still advocate and hold decisions on governance boards. But I believe it's in August, so when we get back as soon as we start the fall semester.
Okay. And so that would include the election of the new student trustee?
And I hadn't participated in the committee in which that was discussed, or in which it was, I believe, approved. I think they had already determined a set of dates, and that has been approved. But I'm not too sure as the specifics as to when a student trustee may take office versus the ASNVC board. That is still in the air for me as well.
Okay, thank you. And so, and I'm curious, I don't know about the other trustees, but where are you going?
Oh, yes. I'm headed to UC Davis. And so I'll be majoring in electrical engineering and computer science. And I'm super excited. I've actually started the summer term there. So I'm in it right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Trustee Baldini?
No report, other than Commodore Stephen Decatur, My Country, Right or Wrong. Thank
okay. And I also have no report. I except that I did attend some of the webinars and the Zoom meetings, and yeah. I think I'm scheduled to meet with Chief Wade on July 15th. So I'm really excited waiting for that meeting. Thank you very much. And so we're announcing future meetings. And help me with the schedule, Catherine. We have a special meeting on August 8th.
No, August 6th, but you skipped future agenda item requests, 11.3.
Does anybody have any agenda items?
I do.
Okay.
Should I just dive in? A couple things. One is in the discussion about the Mentis contract. It kind of made me curious about, since there's so many different pieces to how we provide mental health services to students, and depending on which students they are, what programs they're in, and how it's funded, would be curious to get something a little more detailed about how that works, and how students are referred, how they're tracked, and just a little. I'd like to have a clearer picture of how we're providing those services. And then the other thing I was wondering about that we had set as a goal, our board back several months ago, pre-COVID, to try to do a joint meeting with the other education boards in the Valley. And I would like to see if that's something we could still do in the near future. I know that COVID kind of makes it more difficult, but it also at the same time seems like it's more relevant. So I'm wondering if that's something we could get, at least get a ball rolling and put out some feelers to see if that's something that would be of interest to those other boards. And then the final thing, I was kind of hoping that we were going to have a statement or a resolution or something about our efforts through our board's efforts and commitment to promoting a culture of anti-racism, or if that's too strong a word, at least equity. And so I'd really like to see that on a future agenda, since we did not get to that this year.
Yeah. And for your information, I think that's one of the things that we're going to be thoroughly discussing at our special meeting.
Great, thank you.
Board Chair, I just had one. I don't know if it's necessarily a future agenda item, but I know we had discussed in the past about, I thought in June, maybe getting a report back on Upper Valley campus and a possible forum, or where the discussions were at exploring the topic of an agreement possibly with the city.
I'll weigh in really quickly and say that I've asked Collie to schedule a forum for Upper Valley, and that will happen this month. And we should be able to bring some information, let's call it an information item, in August, Kyle, that will address some options up there. And I'm sure that we'll have information if the city is indeed interested by that time as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kraft.
You bet.
Madam Chair?
Trustee Baldini?
Yes, as I recall, there was a future agenda item request on degrees, honorary degrees, and that seemed to have disappeared without a response. I was wondering if we could put that back up.
I think that's a great idea. We should.
Let me check. Is Eileen, are you on here? I can't see, but I think the Academic Senate was taking it up.
So we'll check with her on the status of that.
Yeah, we'll check. We haven't dropped it off yet, though, Michael. I think it was in the Academic Senate queue.
Oh, I see. I didn't see it last month, so it's probably where it was. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
check.
Thank you. So if you see on 12 on the agenda, 12.1, that's our special meeting on August 6th, 2020. And that's what's going to be discussed, Jennifer. Our goals and to discuss the resolution on social justice that we hopefully adopt on our regular meeting on August the 13th.
Perfect.
And is that meeting at 4:30?
I think we discussed the regular time. It felt like everybody was okay with that, but you can certainly amend it.
Just want to make sure I get it in my calendar.
So we'll leave it at 4:30.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We're adjourned. We went through the agenda, we're adjourned. So, thank you very much. It feels very strange, adjourning at 6 o'clock, 6:10 in the afternoon.
Let me
It's not so hot outside.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
I apologize for technical difficulties on the front end. A double whammy, which was locking my keys in my car along with my phone. So it was quite frustrating, but here I am, so we're good.
Here you are, and you look very nice and comfortable in your garden.
Thank you.
So we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Everyone. Good night.